Name all the anxieties of this moment.
Woo! There's a lot, man. There's a lot. Like, number one, pressure to do a good job and do well. So thing about me, whenever I get like stressed or anxious, I pop into a British accent. I don't actively think about it, but it just happens. Not the point. Yeah, now I know that there's a lot of people waiting on this. They have expectations. They want some good content. So there's that, just as an actor. And then there's also the pressure of like, will I know how to do this again? Was like all of season one like a fluke? Maybe I just like got lucky and like now I'm trash. I try not to give that one too much attention because that's just me overthinking. And then there's of course election anxiety. How is that going to go? Because reality is, if we've learned anything, a bunch of stuff can happen in just such a short time. So I try to not stress about that too much because it's like, hey, I can't stress about the future because I don't know what it has to hold, you know? I gotta like chill out there. And then there's the anxiety of literally a pandemic. I don't want to catch COVID. I don't want to give anyone COVID. I want to stay safe. And I know with the set and the crew, we're all going to do our best to make sure that we stay safe and just, being responsible as an independent being. I got to make sure I'm always on top of my game and I'm not, being stupid. So there's a lot in my head. But then all of it at the same time, I'm also like, yay, I get to go act again.
And get out of the house.
Yeah, honestly, I don't mind being in the house. It's okay. I don't mind.
Guys, I am so sorry I wasn't there for you when you needed me. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I really, really miss you.
We miss you too, Davy.
Maybe we could hang out sometime?
Yeah, I think so. We'll call you tomorrow.
Well, okay, let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to last year. Let's go back to last time we've talked quite a bit publicly about, like right before the show landed, right? But one of the things I didn't ask you is, what was the last scene you shot before the production was over?
Shoot. What was the last scene? I remember. Oh my God. Okay. So it's important to mention that on the last day of filming, me, Jaren, Darren, Lee, and Ramona all bought tickets to do Universal's Horror Nights, like their Halloween horror night. So they were already there, but I was still on set. So it was, and everybody was like trying to, get the scene done so we could get Maitreyi to Universal Horror Nights, and that was that.
Your priorities are all fucked up, by the way. It's like, oh, we gotta get to Horror Night. Never mind the scene. Okay, go on.
Yeah, priorities are all whack, but I was also like still in it to win it. So the second last scene was when Davy is in, Ben Gross's house, like in that spare bedroom, and Ben brings over Fabiola and Eleanor to convince her to go, see her father be, passed on, right? And go to her mother at Malibu. But that was the last scene. So it was like a really an emotional one too. It was pretty like heavy. But they all left. So we finished that scene. They all left. They're on their way to Universal and like the theme park. And then the last scene that we actually filmed, it's not like a whole scene, but it was literally just me running into therapy. Just constantly just me running around the corner, opening the door, saying, Dr. Ryan. That was literally it. Just that whole little loop. And then I remember we finished. We wrapped, everybody was super stoked, everybody was super happy, and then the transpo guys that carry us around set and drives us around all the time, they were like, hey, come with us, we'll take you to Universal Studios. So instead of me having to get my own ride there, they just, took me in a little shortcut to get there as soon as possible. So, yeah.
Well, hold on, so like, first of all, were you on Universal's set when you were shooting?
Yeah.
Okay, so there wasn't, so you were in Studio City. Okay.
Yeah, we were on the studios, but not the theme park. Like we were like in the actual lot where they, film.
Yeah.
But I needed to get to like the hill where the theme park stuff is.
Okay. Well, tell me, like, was there like an emotional? I mean, like, which one was more emotional then? The final shot the final scene you shot with them, or the getting to Universal and this horror haunted house and having that last hurrah off camera? Which was, well, I mean, we should know that wasn't technically the last hurrah, because then you had the junket and all that other stuff later.
Yeah, like I knew I would see everybody again, right?
Mhm.
And like, okay, emotional as a scene, of course, last episode at the beach. But I think for me, like, I was sort of sad that it was coming to an end, because
Mhm.
even though like I would obviously see them like later for press and, literally go to a theme park with them and, see them at a rap party, whatever. It was still sad because it's like, who knows if this will continue, right?
Mhm.
This might be the last time I get to actually like act with these guys, right? And it's just sort of the end. And of course, I got like my homies around me. So yeah.
So now it's been what, 6-7 months? No, like, well, 6 months since the junket, the first junket, since
Yeah.
you've seen them physically,
Yeah.
but obviously much longer since production. What are you most excited about? Is it the work? Is it just hanging out? Like, is it like when you get to LA, are you gonna like hang out with them before you even get to work?
I'm excited to like, of course, just be around them because I really do miss them. I love all of them. They're just so great and just lovely people to be able to work with. But I really do miss acting. I realized yesterday that this is the longest time I've gone without like being a part of a project because in high school it was always back to back, like now we have the spring play, now we have the musical, now we have like this production, that, whatever. And right out of high school, right, I went into Never Have I Ever.
Right.
And then now it's the longest break it's been and I'm like, like I miss it. I really do.
Well, hold on though. Like, isn't all the stuff you're doing
Mhm.
since Never Have I Ever, like you've been doing a lot of promo work, a lot of like,
Yeah.
present, like all, isn't that all I mean, I kind of feel like you've been nonstop from your living room or from your basement. Like, is that
Yeah.
not the case? Like, has not been one project after another?
Oh, I've been definitely keeping myself busy. I have a problem with like chilling out. Like I need to always be busy. I have
Yeah.
to have something to do or I get like really antsy. So I have been keeping busy, but it's different when you're just like on a set, like when you're on a set, just of course, like the actual stage is just crazy because you feel like you're walking down a legitimate high school hallway, which when you turn a corner, you're suddenly not on a high school hallway, but you're in Devi Vishwakumar's bedroom. And it's just crazy like that. But just being able to have a scene partner and, act it out, live that, world is really, really something unique.
I didn't actually ever realize that this show kind of extended your high school life and somehow you graduated from high school and you kept going back to high school and you're still going back to high school.
Yep.
You're never getting out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
Yep.
yeah. And oh God, let's go for 5 seasons in high school. We'll see how that goes.
Woo.
But okay, so I don't know that anyone has ever experienced, like, I mean, first of all, none of us have experienced something like this where we've all been shut in our homes for 6 months. The kind of seismic shift is twofold for you because you are both experiencing this pandemic, but also experiencing stardom and people coming after you while you're still stuck in your basement.
Mm-hmm.
What does that feel like to have the whole world kind of reaching out to you from in that little hole?
I remember somebody called me Corona famous. And I didn't know how to feel about that. I was like, thanks. I think like, okay. No, but it's interesting because like, I feel similar to like I feel like the same as how I was when I was in high school and, just chilling at home with my family, and the exact same house, sleeping in the exact same bed. Like it's not crazy in the sense that I'm going places to feel that typical cliche Hollywood glamour, but at the same time, there's like this fact that a lot of people are watching me from all around the world, which is amazing. And I'm truly thankful and blessed for all of the love. So in some ways it's totally different, but in other ways, and honestly, many ways, I feel really the same and things haven't shifted too much.
Yeah. Well, then, okay, like let's deal with kind of the serious and darker side of you being now famous, right? And I don't mean darker like, ooh, you got paparazzi prying into your social life. I don't know, you can't have a social life right now, so there's not much to see, right? But like in terms of like, we're all like, the whole industry's like, especially after the summer, the racial reckoning after George Floyd, that, like that started these conversations about how we represent Black stories. And then that expanded out to how do we represent all stories? I mean, it kind of like expanded out and covered more areas. And all of a sudden everyone's scrambling for what POC representatives what BIPOC representatives they could find for this show and that show. And so, I mean, it kind of, I don't know how you perceive that from your end, because it's like, you would have been famous and they would have been seeking you out regardless. The show would have been a hit regardless. But now, having that experience coupled with this kind of political moment, are you noticing how people want to kind of prop you up and almost like kind of want to be like, can you be our brown face for this thing? Can you be our brown face for this thing?
Can you be our token little brown child?
Is it like at every award show? Are you noticing like, what's the trend? Like, give me some insight on from what that looks like on your side.
Like, yet again, because it's hard to say because everything's so digital, and even like if I ever get that sense of like tokenism to have just whatever South Asian girl, like, oh, well, let's just get her. I just try to stay away from it because it's like, no, you need to do it properly. But that being said, I'm really happy that because of like everything that's been going on, reality is what's been going on, the Black Lives Matter movement is not new. It's been around, right, for years. Thankfully now, though, it's at the front line as it should be. And we're putting that attention on it. And even if it's a matter of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, we're still going forward. And I'm very, very happy that that's the case. I'd like to believe that's the case. But with everything when it comes to like interview questions or just like what's, going on in the world, I don't really feel different about it because I think we should always be having these conversations and always be, aware of taking, things into consideration of how we are representing, POC, how we are treating the Black community, how, those racial microaggressions, all those things that have been around and should be talked about for years to come and onwards. We shouldn't just shut down because it's not trending.
Yeah, but I mean, so here's the thing though. Do you find, like, because I mean, in Canada, we have such a limited talent pool, right? And there's so few because we have like such a small kind of like production and industry and stuff, there's so few of us that end up becoming like international stars the way you did, right? Mm-hmm. So now, does that mean that they come to you and be like, we need you to represent all the colors? Like, you're going to be the representative of Black and yellow and this, like, you're just our colored person? Like, do you feel like that kind of like, or all types of brown people? Doesn't matter if they're Muslim and this and that?
Yeah. So for me, like, I think, like, I don't know if I've directly faced that where it's like, we need you to, because reality is nobody's going to bluntly say that.
Right.
Because,
yeah.
You can't. But I don't know if I've ever been in that situation or if I've maybe actively steered away from that kind of situation. But with that being said, there is that pressure that some people put on me to represent all brown girls. Like, of course, because we're in Canada, like you were saying, not many Canadians can make that international level, right? Mm-hmm. But not to say that Canada has immense talent and our productions are just amazing. Like, but there's that pressure, represent all brown girls. Like, you got to be the best representation of brown girls. And that's something that, like, in the past year has been something I've had to deal with. Like, at first it was very overwhelming. I was like, gotta be perfect now. Like, prim and proper. Like, get it together. But then I realized if I said so early on when the show came out, I said, Davy can't possibly represent all brown girls. She's one. So why would it be any different for me? Mm-hmm. Like, first of all, I can't represent other racial communities because I'm not that. So that's like out of the question. Mm-hmm. But I can't represent even all Tamil people because I don't have the same experience as everybody. All I can do is stay true to myself and the experience that I've lived in my short span of 18 years, right? I was about to say 17. I know how old I am. Don't worry.
Pandemic, losing time.
Ooh. Yeah. But I can only stay true to myself and represent the life that I've lived. And hopefully people can relate to that, whether they're Tamil, whether, they're just a girl, whatever it may be, right? And yeah, I've tried to push off that pressure of feeling the need to represent a whole community because nobody should feel that pressure. That's impossible. You can't do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought it was interesting because, like, as soon as, I think you were being pitched as Miss Marvel, and I'm like, wait, she's Muslim.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know if that's like even a thing that you were even considering or entertaining or whatnot. Yeah.
like I think we've talked about this before, but I don't know if you know, but I love Marvel. Like I love superheroes. Deadpool's my favorite. Ryan Reynolds. I love Ryan Reynolds. But like, yeah, that feel wrong. I couldn't do that because she's Pakistani Muslim, and it, like, for Kamala Khan, for Miss Marvel, it's integral to her character to be Pakistani Muslim. Like it is a part of her storyline and her relationship with her dad. Like you can check like the comic books and stuff. It's important for her character. So it's not something that could be switched to my ethnicity. So it's not negotiable. It's just you just don't. Because if it were a Tamil superhero, I wouldn't want somebody else playing it if they weren't Tamil. You know? Right. Like if it like that would just really suck. I know I would be sad. I'd be like, damn, like we were this close to having a Tamil superhero and we just missed it. It's not a matter of, you know, we need to bring more people to join the industry. No, they're there. Just nobody's putting a light on them. And that's awful. You're like, come on, you could really do good here. You know, Mindy did her whole worldwide search, and I think that's amazing. Marvel, for Kamala Khan, Iman Vellani, they did it. Yeah, and that's awesome. And like, I'm so hyped for her, you know, like I'm so excited. And hearing that announcement, also she's Canadian, but like, you know, that's awesome. Like, I'm so excited to see how her career is going to go and just everything that's going to come for her, because that's awesome. Like Marvel, yes, good job. You did that. I'm glad they did. And hopefully like that's what people continue to do. Like for me with my roles, like if there's a character that doesn't have any, you know, ethnicity specified, by me playing that character, it's going to become Tamil because I'm Tamil. Right. And if it's a character where it doesn't really matter, but it's written in as like maybe they're Christian, but it doesn't actually really matter that they're Christian, then I'll be like, hey, like, can we just switch it up to being more like me? If I'm playing the character, can we bring that level of connection for me and the character? Yeah. That's how you open doors, and that's also how you educate people about your culture. The amount of people I've had to say like, oh yeah, I'm Tamil, and they're like, huh? What? Because it's like we're like a unicorn. We're like a unicorn. And I just want to educate people about my people because I'm really proud to be Tamil, you know?
But, you know, like, here's the thing. I want to get into the criticism of the show because it's like, of course, you know, not everyone's going to love the show. Fair enough. Even like, I mean, I pointed out, like, I thought the first few episodes, like, it felt like they was going through some growing pains and maybe they were figuring it out. And I really started loving it as the episodes went on. I mean, did you notice that was there a certain improvement as you guys were making the show, like, in terms of finding your groove, like, from like kind of the first few episodes going forward?
Yeah, well, number one, first and foremost, like, Never Have I Ever is not pitch perfect. Like, no show is pitch perfect. You know, if there's people out there that hate The Office, then of course Never Have I Ever can't be perfect. I'm just kidding. I just love The Office. But yeah, no, like, it's not pitch perfect, and I like the fact that it's not pitch perfect because it gives us room to strive for perfection. And as a perfectionist, I like that. Yeah. But yeah, with, you know, I've heard like my own like cast members, family members tell me, like, for my own personal acting, just how much I've grown from episode 1 to 10. And I can feel it. Like, I know I'm so much better at, like, by the time we were at 10, 9 than I was at 1 and 2. And I think, like, you know, it's about finding your groove, but also, like, as a cast together, you know, we really got to know each other and have that real bond. Like, by the time we were at episode, like, you know, 5 and onwards, every single scene that's with Lee and Ramona and myself, Eleanor and Fabiola, it's just genuinely us. Like, that's just, it is like what you're seeing is just actually real as friends, you know? It's just that we're being fed the lines. It's also really embarrassing how many times Davey would have to, like, do something mean to them, but then I would start laughing because I'd feel bad. And I'm like, guys, I'm really sorry. I feel bad saying this to you. But, like, yeah, we definitely picked up our groove and we'll continue to do it, you know?
Yeah, so the training wheels are off then for season 2. You just
yeah, bro. We're not even on like a 2-wheel bike. We're on some motorcycle stuff. Sidecar, maybe. I don't know. Nah, it's just all solo motorcycles. It's like a gang. Yeah, that's fun.
So okay, but then I was very fascinated by some of the criticism, because some of the criticism I think was fair, and I mean I'm talking about not just like some awkward acting. I'm talking about like, you know, like the opening episode, the whole shtick of Davy being paralyzed. They felt that was kind of an ableist gag. And then there was like the reference to indentured slaves, which is like, yes, it could be kind of deemed offensive, but I think there's also kids who pop off like that. Do you think that's criticism that like that the writers will take into heart for the second season? Is that stuff that like, is that the kind of criticism we shrug off as like, oh, everyone has a complaint, or is that the kind of stuff we're going to incorporate and think about for the next season?
No, 100%. Like, that's the stuff that we're going to incorporate for the next season. I know specifically for the plot line of Davy when it came to her legs, right? Like, you know, just like her legs just being paralyzed. That's something that Lang Fisher actually experienced when watching her brother, I believe, because Lang's parent, you know, passed away when they were kids, right? And it was what happened to her brother. Like the same exact thing, what happened to Davy was pulled from her siblings' experience when he literally just couldn't walk, right? And that was that, you know?
Right.
So it did come from a legitimate, genuine place that wasn't just put in there to be like, oh, she's quirky and she has a wheelchair. Like, no. Like, we weren't trying to be just quirky with that. That did come from a real place. But of course, like, yeah, there's some parts where we take that criticism. Like, I know there was one criticism about Eric played by Jack Seaver.
Which one?
The guy who drops his raisinets, you know. The criticism was about the fact that, you know, it's like, why do we have to make comedy about him being around the fact that he's plus size? Why can't he just be a funny guy? Right? And I remember reading that article being like, yeah, that's very true. That is really honest and something that we have to work on. And I remember, you know, like talking to Mindy and she also agreed, like, yeah, we shouldn't have done that. Let's change it up. Moving, like, what's done is done, but we're going to move forward and we're going to change it up and fix those things. Because let me tell you, Jack, the guy who plays Eric, he's so funny. I can go on about Jack all day, but like, he has so much to give, and like as an actor and everything that he does with his comedy. So it's like, yeah, we got to take those criticisms. There's not a lot of criticisms. You can take it and actually improve. So yeah.
But then some of the criticism was like, I remember someone saying like, oh, a brown girl wouldn't be going to therapy, or oh, like Tamil girls wouldn't be dancing to Bollywood music. And I was like, hold the fuck on. Like, let me show you my sisters. They you know, I mean, talk to me about like that kind of criticism. Like, I mean, where, you know, how do you respond? Or I mean, would like does it is it even worth taking seriously when people are getting like nitpicky like that? Or like, what are the ones to take seriously?
Yeah. So like, I love getting criticism because I want to make people happy, you know, and I want to do the best that I can be and help the show, right? Because we might not always hit the mark every single time. And when we don't, we need to know. We can't just turn a blind eye and say like, oh, screw you, your opinion is invalid. Like, we can't do that. That's just rude. But then there's sometimes like those criticisms where it's like I haven't even heard that one about Tamil girls not dancing to Bollywood. And Davy going to therapy, I'm very surprised that people criticized that a brown girl's going to therapy. Sure, we can talk about how not many brown girls go to therapy, but I think it's really awesome that a brown girl's going to therapy because that should be normalized. Like, that's really, like, that's one of my favorite parts of Never Have I Ever and Davy's character, the fact that she does go, you know, and she's not like embarrassed about it. Like, everybody knows she goes to therapy. It's like, okay, like, therapy, Dr. Ryan is literally her homie. And those criticisms to me are like, hey, just as much as I recognize that the brown experience, like being South Asian, being Tamil even, just, you know, breaking it down, isn't all, you know, the same. Audience members also have to see that. But I also empathize. Another part of my brain thinks you're upset because you're still looking for representation that you can relate to. And I understand that. When people say, oh, I'm not like Davy at all, like, I would never say that to my mother. Some of the stuff that Davy has said, I have personally said to my mother. Some of the other stuff, I personally also have not. But when people are like, I would never say that to my mother, I would never act like that, like, as Davy, whatever, I don't get mad at those because, hey, we can't all relate to her. And I understand that you're still waiting for the character that you can relate to. And that's frustrating, you know? Those comments might have been from the people who were really excited about this, hoping that this would be their character, that, you know, when they took a BuzzFeed quiz, they know they would get that character. But
Yeah.
They watched it and it wasn't. And that must have hurt. And I got to empathize with that. And to that, I just say, hey, one day, hopefully, I'll take on a character that you can relate to, because I want to take on a character that, would totally get in an argument with Davy and they wouldn't be anything alike. Right?
So then, now I'm going to criticize the people who are now turning your show into a sort of fucking Twilight situation with this Team Ben or team, what's the other one's name? Paxton.
What's the other one's name?
Well, see which one's left a mark in my head. You know which team I'm on when I can't remember Team Paxton's name. But
we're Dan is Team Ben.
but tell me, like that conversation, like, is that even like that's not, I think you've handled that well, because that's not what this show's about.
No, for me, that's not what it's about. So Never Have I Ever touches some serious stuff, right? We really dive into serious topics, and we hope to continue to do exactly that. But at the same time, it does have this layer of your typical teen YA, because it's that stuff, people like it, people like that juicy drama. And I always wonder, what team would I be on if I didn't play Davy? Would I, as a viewer, would I actually say I'm Team Davy, or would I say I'm Team Ben or Paxton? I'm biased to say Team Davy, because for me the show is about so much more than just the love triangle. But honestly, let people have their fun, for people who really are crazy diehard Daxton shippers and Bavy shippers with their edits and fan art, I'm yeah, if that makes you happy, that's all that we need,
Yeah. Well, then again, and the big thing, this show is, again, when I reviewed the show, I didn't even get to see the final episode, and I was like, oh my god, the final episode came to me after I had already reviewed it. Yeah. So it's funny, it's oh my god, that episode really ties it all together, and I should have known that from episode 9, which was cliffhanger. But it really, I love that the show became something about, this is really has always been about Davy and her mother, and this that's always been the central conflict of the show.
Yeah.
I know you're Netflix won't let you say a damn thing, but what can you tell me about season 2? Are there new characters that are going to be big? Or who's coming into focus? What's going on?
Man, I'd love to tell you everything, but I just know you'd be happier if it were a surprise.
All right, fine.
You would, you know it. You would be happier if it was a surprise and you watch it versus me just tell you, right? Okay, but I have to agree, that relationship with, Davy and Nalini, for season 1, that was that whole point. If I had to describe season 1 as in a short little sentence or two, I would say it's a story about when the middle mediator in a family dynamic is gone, right? When Mohan, the middle man, is gone, what happens to that family? Right? Because that's the story. The story is we see it when they're all 3 together, and it's clear that Mohan's the one that helps communicate back and forth for both Nalini to Davy, Davy to Nalini. But now we take away what happens to that family, right? Yeah. And that's what I think season 1 really is about, and how it ties in at the end. I also love how the trailer for Never Have I Ever that was released, if you watch it, it shows nothing about what's going to happen. There's literally no spoilers in it. Everything is so out of context that if you watched it, it looks like a typical another YA young adult teen show, but it's so much more. And I love that.
Awesome. So thank you so much, and have fun on season 2. And I can't wait to see you when you get back. Hopefully there won't be a pandemic.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Man, it feels so long ago when we actually got to meet each other way back when, eh?
And do a photo shoot on fucking Jarvis Street, right? Or jumping in traffic.
Go pose in the middle of the street. Go. Ah.
Yeah. So one day we'll do that again.
Oh man.